All right, so this is the time of the meeting where I turn things over to our program chair so he can introduce our speaker. Sure.
Test chair, test chair.
Okay. All right, go for it. Do you have something to attach?
He's got a flash drive.
I got it.
Okay, go for it.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the short presentation tonight will be given by Joe Tocco. Tell us all how to get a free $400 telescope.
Well, not exactly, but
Okay. Joe's been an active member of the Warren Astronomical Society since the summer of 2011, and he's also a member of the Seven Ponds Astronomy Club. As a young teen, he was an active member of this club, and he drifted away for a while, I guess, and got involved with life's activities, but he remembers the mentoring that he received from many past club members. He enjoys the opportunity to repay that kindness now. Joe was the service manager for a systems integration company where he has worked for the past 26 years. Prior to that, he served proudly in the United States Coast Guard as an Avionics Technician. He just completed 2 years on the board as Observatory Chairman, and he's now our treasurer, and he resides in Waterford, Michigan.
how's everybody? We're delayed slightly.
Hey, Joe. Can you get any jokes?
Right. So, the idea behind this whole presentation is I was given a telescope for free, right? It's going to take a minute for the presentation to come up, so I'll kind of start with the first couple of slides. But one of the club members had a 6-inch Meade dot. It was an old scope, probably from the late 80s, early 90s, and it was problematic. Okay, so this telescope, it had some issues. It was an old dot, mass-produced, in I don't know if John's even here tonight, but John Baginski is the gentleman that gave me this telescope. So he would bring it out to the open houses, and I would work with him and trying to get it collimated and usable, and it had a decent image. Just in the air. Okay, so he had this telescope, and it was inexpensive dot, mass-produced, so it wasn't the greatest. But I thought maybe it might have pretty good optics, so I had talked to him about rebuilding it at some point, and he thought that was a good idea. The telescope, is almost identical to this one here. And I was, when he first brought it out to Stargate, I was really, it brought back memories because early on in the 70s, that was my telescope. It was a 6-inch f10 that I got from one of the club members here, Carl Noble, who was president of the club at the time. And so, I've always had this fondness for a 6-inch reflector. Well, we get back to John's telescope, which was almost identical, and I don't know if you guys remember the flood back in August of 2014, but everybody probably dealt with some issues because of this flood. John's basement flooded, right? Didn't do so well for his telescope. It ended up underwater. So he called me up and he said, I'm getting a new telescope. I said, oh, why don't you rebuild the reflector? He says, nah, I threw it away. I said, you threw it away? He says, yeah, I'm done with it. I'm tired of trying to deal with it. Besides that, my basement flooded and it filled up with water. I said, well, John, the optics are probably cleaner than before the flood, right? There's nothing wrong with the optics. They're fine. He says, no, I get that, but I want to deal with it. I threw it away. I said, John, I would have bought the optics from you. I said, you know, he says, well, it's down at the curb. If you want it, you can come and get it. I said, go to the curb, get the telescope, and I'll be over to pick it up. So I went over there, picked this telescope up, and it was literally still filled with water. The water had never drained out of the bottom of the telescope. And I wasn't quite sure why that was happening, but I realized it after a few minutes. So I literally took the telescope up on end, drained the water out of it, put it in the back of my car, and I left the dot, the old Rockerbox I left there. It was particle board, it was saturated and swollen, and you know, when it dried out, it would have fallen apart. So the first thing I needed to do was, well, first I tried to encourage John to still rebuild the telescope. I said, John, we can go buy a piece of sonotube from Home Depot. I got Baltic birch in my garage. $20, we can have this telescope operational again. No, you want it, you got it, take it. You know, good luck with it. I hope it gets resurrected. But it's all on you. So I took it home. I went out and I bought a piece of sonotube, and you know, I assembled my Baltic birch and all these different components that, or the material to make these components that I was going to need. And then I thought, oh, I got a piece of aluminum. I could make an aluminum mirror cell, but I don't want to put an aluminum mirror cell in a cardboard tube, so maybe I'll buy a tube. So of course, after shopping around, I find this tube for Parallax, right? And the guy at Parallax says, you know, for $20 I'll roll the front edge of your tube. And I said, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that. So he rolls the edge, makes the front of the tube nice and stiff. Of course, the back of the tube can't get rolled because you got to slide the mirror cell into it. And I got this beautiful aluminum tube. It's awfully shiny inside. So first thing I had to do was go out and get some flocking paper for it, right? Turn the inside of the tube nice and dark. I could have painted it, but painting aluminum is problematic. So now I have this tube. I have these clean optics following the flood. So I go to Stellafane, I download plans for a mirror cell that's designed to be made out of Baltic birch, but I want to make it out of the aluminum that I have. So get out some hand tools. I got some scrap left over, and after a little bit of polishing and finessing, I end up with the two primary pieces of aluminum I need to make the mirror cell. You know, Saturday afternoon, and I have it actually works really well, but a very functional mirror cell. It didn't really cost me much. I had the aluminum laying around, I had the springs laying around. I bought some fine thread screws so that I could get better adjustment out of it. But that's the finished mirror cell, ready to go in my tube. Well, the secondary for this thing was in pretty good shape. So I thought, well, I can repurpose the secondary, but it doesn't fit in my new tube. My new tube is now bigger than the old tube. So I scavenged these standoffs. And they were too long to use inside the tube, so I cut them in half. That was a whole other ordeal, right? It's kind of a small part to hold on to. I don't have a vise, so I kind of fabricated one. You can't really see it here, but I got a jigsaw. I cut them in half, filed them down so they look nice and neat. I had to do it 4 times. And I got the secondary mounted inside the tube. Those are all painted black now. You know, to minimize it, it would be silly to put a bunch of silver components in a tube that you just spent $45 flocking to minimize light scatter. So they all got painted dark. Of course, I had to have a new focuser to go with my new tube. You know, and it got carried away fast.
Never, we hadn't noticed.
So, well, the one thing I'm kind of a handy guy, but when it comes to doing, let's just say that I will not rely on my mathematical skills for determining any kind of structural build, okay? So I didn't know exactly where this mirror was going to set inside the tube to give me the proper focus for all my different eyepieces. And I knew that if I made a measurement, did the calculations, made a measurement, and made a decision on where to place the mirror, inevitably it would be wrong for one of my eyepieces. So I fabricated these little brackets to hold the mirror cell, and I clamped the mirror cell in the back of the tube so that I could move it in and out before I drilled any holes in the tube. It worked pretty well. And, I didn't have a Rockerbox yet, so I had to fabricate something to hold the scope so I could get it all tested. So I got an old Rockerbox, and this old Rockerbox was given to me by John Lyons. He didn't use it anymore, and I figured at some point I'd be able to put it into use, but it was too big for this scope. So I broke out all my eyepieces, and I got the telescope all set up on the old Rockerbox. I needed an altitude adjustment, of course.
Get this marvelous optical trading with this.
Yeah, we'll go back here real quick.
I see a Bob Waterford in your feet.
I tested all of my eyepieces, and I figured out the perfect location. Every eyepiece I have comes to focus in that telescope, which is great. I was able to mark the holes. I permanently mounted the mirror cell, and it was great. But now I wanted to point it. You can't handhold a 6-inch f8 reflector. So the first thing I did was made a set of rings. This is a test set just out of particle board. Of course, I make the real ones out of Baltic birch. But then I remembered I got a $100 gift certificate at Great Lakes Starbase. And it's from Telescope Support Systems. So I called Clayton Kessler, which a lot of you guys probably know. And I said, Clay, here's what I'm doing. I've got it carried away, but I want to build a really nice 6-inch reflector. And now I'm at the point where I've invested enough money, I'm going to give this as a gift to my daughter. And it's something that she'll hand down to her children, and her children's children will hand it down to them. So it has to be great. So Clay says, well, I can make some really nice rings. I said, well, that's great, but I need trunnion bearings too. He said, well, let me think about it for a minute. So the $100 gift certificate put a dent in it, but that's what he came up with. That was $250, and I'm sure he'll want more money if you wanted to go order one, because it was a lot of work for him. But he made 8-inch trunnion bearings, mounted them to these side saddle plates, and that would probably hold the Kalinowski telescope. I mean, actually it's the same type of rings that are on there, but it's really, really heavy duty, and it turned out really nice. Looks great on the telescope. And now I just had to put together a Rockerbox. So that black one that we had, I started to piece that apart and redimension it and reassemble it. And I thought, yeah, it's not going to look good. I'm going to paint it black. I don't like it. So I had an old wall unit that was made out of beautiful teak wood. Turns out it's veneer. It's not all teak wood, but it still looked beautiful. And when I took it out of the moving truck, when I moved to Waterford, it slipped out of my hands and the corner hit the concrete and it folded like a deck of cards, like the whole thing. Well, and when that happened, I said, the wood's beautiful, I'm going to keep it, I'll have a use for it at some point. So that's the Rockerbox I built out of the teak wood. And it worked great. I got Pathline bearings. It spun nicely in all directions except horizontally. I didn't care for the way it spun horizontally. It was on Teflon pads and it hung up a little bit, so I built another one. And this one went on a needle roller bearing like a Lazy Susan. These are all the pieces for it. I know it looks just like the other one, but it really is the second one. I bought some Teflon. Of course, you go out to buy Pathline, you're gonna buy a 12 by 12 sheet, right? In the minimum quantity, so if anybody wants to buy Pathline, come see me, because I got lots of it. 4 little squares cost $85, right? But I got a lot of extra. So I quickly, I mean, this telescope, realistically, I probably spent $500 trying to pull this stuff together, but I can sell off some of the Pathline and recoup some losses. So, that's the new mount, and you can see I put in a little, some recesses for the Pathline bearing so that, you know, glue doesn't stick to Pathline very well. And when you put a little bit of pressure on it, it tends to pop it off the adhesive. So I put in some little recess. I kind of recessed or mortised those Pathline blocks into the mount. It doesn't show it. They're only in about 1/8 of an inch, but it works really well. And the whole mount moves like butter. It really is beautiful. I added a handle. I didn't have to buy the handle. It was left over from it's a drawer hole from an old Danity that I discarded at some point. And that's the finished telescope. So I kind of stopped the bleeding at some point when I stopped buying things for it. But as it turned out, it works remarkably well. The images are really nice in it. It's built really to last a long time. And it sits up, or will be back up in Charlottesville at my daughter's house. So
What is that shadow? What's that from?
that's the photographer.
I'm saying.
Yeah, the sun's out.
Yeah,
Right.
Which is unusual for a finished telescope.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Well, it was daytime. It'd be probably by then. So that's the story of how a free telescope costs $400.
How are the optics?
No, the optics are really nice. I mean, the image is really, it's, you know, it's a small aperture and it's a long focal length, so it's pretty forgiving.
What is the focal length?
F8,
That's nice ratio. So it's a 6-inch,
6-inch F8, right?
so 48 inches.
Right, yes. Yep, it'll be out at probably the next open house, if anybody makes it out, and we actually have clear skies. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Joe.